So, hi, my name is Shreya Mehta. I am in the Richland School District and I'm ASD Vice President. And for starters, what is really important about student voice and advocacy to me is just how much perspectives that students bring that maybe adults would never have heard of, or really the youth to youth connection that students can bring when they have the power to give student voice. I think it's really important that there's always students in the room and there's always that engagement because it not only helps, the students who are involved in that process, but it helps all of the students who are kind of behind them and who are seeing them take on this role and helping them feel truly represented and truly cared for by the decision makers. So, one advocacy project that I've worked on this year is really examining school boards and the way different school districts approach student voice. And I've interviewed board presidents, I've interviewed a ton of different student board members to talk about, what's happening at your school. Why do you think this is successful for your school? And I put together a pretty comprehensive pros and cons type of thing to each individual model that a lot of schools take on. And it's been a great experience. I've learned a lot about what different schools are doing and what's really working for them. And it's very telling when you see successful student voice in the district because I think you see a lot of successful student engagement even outside that student voice that just totally ties in. It totally shows, yes, they really care. And yeah, it's been really, really fascinating. So, one way that adults can really effectively acknowledge student voice and really honor it would probably be to kind of keep in mind at the end of, a term, at the end of a year, at the end of like the 2 year terms that a lot of students have when they engage in student voice is, maybe some kind of compensation, whether that's like a credit, whether that's a small sum of a scholarship, but, for shorter student voice roles, a lot of the times some like certificates that are signed can actually be used for college. Little letters can be used for college, and those things are really helpful. And just knowing like, hey, after the student has done a lot of really good student voice work, I want to thank them in some way. And I think that's important for, acknowledging any student who's really tried hard to bring their voice and support their peers alongside them, regardless of how successful it is, because I think it's super important to raise people who are civically minded and willing to engage in the processes. And things to encourage that are definitely those certificates that are just signed at the bottom. And other than that, really just saying thank you. I think that a lot of the times it's challenging with student voice and learning how to navigate power dynamics with adults, but what makes it worth it is when you get to the other side of the hills and then you can just really appreciate one another and thank one another. And honestly, a simple thank you goes a long way. And I think it feels very gratifying to know what you're doing as a student is working, especially with such a little experience.